Prosecuting team, please come to the stage. The defendant's team, please come to the stage.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 2021 mock trials. I'm Jessica Bennett with the Local Buzz News, and today we are about to witness the court case of Jonathan Turner versus the state. We will now introduce the prosecuting attorney, Mrs. Shaw.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Ms. Gracelyn Shaw. I am the prosecuting attorney in the case State of Idaho versus Turner. I will be representing the state of Idaho here today.
Mrs. Olivia White, please introduce yourself.
I am Mrs. Olivia White. I am a witness in today's trial, and I will be witnessing to the prosecution.
So, this is a retrial. You've already been here. You've already done this. How is that affecting you?
It's like it's a nightmare coming back to life. I have to relive those memories of so long ago, and it's scary.
And sadly, you are here alone. Mr. Brian Hayes passed away in 2017, correct?
Yes, he died of a heart attack.
Thank you. Miss Smith, our witness, please introduce yourself.
I'm Kiara Smith, and I am a witness for the prosecuting team.
Mrs. Jones.
My name is Sabrina Miss Jones. Jonathan is my son. I consider his other mother. He was with me, and I am the alibi of my son did not commit arson.
Thank you, Mrs. Jones. Mrs. Miller.
My name is Ava Marie Miller. I am a witness for the prosecuting side. I'm just a good friend of Olivia's that witnessed the crime.
Thank you. And here we have our defendant attorney, Mrs. Sharp.
I am Mrs. Amy Sharp, and I am the defendant attorney for Mr. Jonathan Turner in the case State Idaho versus Jonathan Turner.
Quick question, how did you get a retrial from someone who's been in prison for 7 years?
Well, back in the old trial 7 years ago, then the police, they disregarded important evidence. And now that we have the new testimony of Dexter Hamilton, I made a restatement. I said, hey, you need to do another trial because this guy is innocent.
So do you feel confident with this case?
100%.
Thank you. Mr. Jonathan Turner, you've been in prison for 7 years for a crime you say you didn't commit.
I don't know.
But evidence says otherwise. How are you going to prove that you're innocent?
Well, we have the evidence right there. As long as,
The testimony.
yes.
Thank you. Mr. Dexter Hamilton.
How's it going?
And our bailiff.
I'm Mr. Jason Holmes, and I'll be the bailiff in today's court case.
Thank you. So, a quick rerun of the past. Mr. Jonathan Turner is accused of 3 counts of arson where he burned down someone's home, their shop. He went so far as to burn down the man's beloved truck. He then attempted to murder him by shooting him with his own gun, and then pointed the gun at his wife and luckily missed. He was sentenced for 20 years where he has served 7 total of the 20. But how did we get to this point? How did Jonathan Turner, a young boy from Sandpoint, Idaho, go so far as to burn someone's property down and attempt to murder them? It goes back to when he left his family's farm and started working with Brian Hayes' father at Dylan Road Construction. There, jealousy kind of formed between Brian and Jonathan. Jonathan became the favorite, at least in Brian's head. So Brian Hayes decides to go off and do his own thing. He goes down to Flagstaff, Arizona, and goes to college, where he meets the girl of his dreams. He convinces that girl to move up here, where they sadly broke up, and she married Jonathan Turner. So, when the first chance that Brian Hayes got when he took over his father's company, he fired Jonathan. He made Jonathan lose his home and go so far as to supposedly sabotage him so he couldn't get another job. Now, after losing his home and being overdue on all his credit cards, he was unable to pay an ultrasound appointment where they found out that his wife was having a baby boy. And it was December 23rd, 2001. When they got on their way home, his wife gave a phone call to Miss Olivia White, where she said a last I love you. And on that drive home, they got into a car accident and Zaya Evelyn White Turner was killed with her unborn son. Now this put Jonathan Turner in a severe depression, and for years, all he could blame was Brian Hayes. He attacked him every chance he got. He would purposely find fights. Brian fought him back. Who's guilty? Nobody really pressed charges. So then, in 2005, Jonathan Turner tried to kill himself. He was done. He was sick of this life. But luckily, a local man by the name of Kaya Jones took him in and gave him another start. And at that new start, he gave him a job to be an electrician. And in 2009, he opened his own business. And him and Brian separated from 2009 all the way until the night of the fire. And who did Brian Hayes say beat him? Jonathan Turner, someone he has never talked to for 5 years. So in this court case, we are going to dive deep in the evidence and testimonies and witnesses and see who actually committed this crime. We will now welcome Judge Hudson Bin Walker.
All rise. You may be seated. The UVA Academy presents the 2021 retrials of the State of Idaho versus Jonathan Turner, with the Honorable Judge Hudson Bin Walker presiding.
So in our courtroom, we're going to have, we're interested in the truth. The truth only in this case. We're going to find out what's going on, and we will have order in our court. We have bailiffs here to remove anyone that is unruly. There will be no hats on in this audience. No laughing. She's already serving 3 life sentences. There's only one other thing we can do. We will proceed.
Prosecuting Attorney Shaw, you may begin with your opening statement. You have 5 minutes, and your time will start now.
Good morning, Your Honor. I am Ms. Gracelyn Shaw, the prosecuting attorney. In the case, the State of Idaho versus Turner, I will be representing the State of Idaho. September 6, 2014, 7 years ago, Mr. Hayes was in his office inside his house when he heard not 1, not 2, but 3 extremely loud bangs. So he did anything that any other man would do, and he took his gun, a 9mm Glock, and went to check out what exactly was going on outside of his house. It was in this moment he realized his house was on fire, as well as his property and his shop. He opened the door and was assaulted with a crowbar to his face. Now, who assaulted Mr. Turner with this crowbar? No, Mr. Hayes with this crowbar? None other than Jonathan David Turner. He assaulted Mr. Brian Hayes and took his gun, where he continued to beat this man to near death. Miss Miller, the next door neighbor, heard the loud bangs and looked up, and she realized that Miss Olivia White's property and Brian Hayes' house and property was on fire. So she called Miss Olivia White, who was at Walmart prepared to leave the parking lot when she received a call from a frantic Miss Miller telling her Jonathan Turner is attacking Brian Hayes. And your property is on fire as well as your house. Now, Miss White started freaking out as well, and she dialed 911, where they came to the incident after Jonathan Turner had already fled the scene. Miss White left and arrived at the scene to see Mr. Turner with the gun he had taken from Brian Hayes was pointing it at his face. She screamed. He fired. However, when he fired, the scream had alerted him, and it confused him, and he had missed. He hit Mr. Brian Hayes' thigh instead. He then proceeded to turn and fire at Miss Olivia White, missing her by mere inches and hitting the tree behind her. That is when he dropped the gun and fled the scene. Now, Miss Olivia White ran to Mr. Turner, Mr. Brian Hayes, who was drifting in and out of conscious, but he kept repeating the words, "Turner done it, he went too far." The evidence that Jonathan Turner is indeed the man who committed this crime is all here, including DNA from a piece of a shirt left at the scene and pushed into the newly planted grass, which as well showed the prints of Mr. Jonathan Turner's shoes perfectly. So the shirt was there, the shoe marks were there, and hair, with hair follicles from Jonathan Turner's head. During the fight, Mr. Brian Hayes had ripped out a piece of his hair trying to defend himself. This hair was covered in Brian Hayes' blood and was also smashed into the ground. Shrapnel was everywhere. The shrapnel was from the 3 pipe bombs that had exploded. The 3 bombs. Now, Mr. Jonathan Turner is an electrician. And when the police got the warrant to search Jonathan Turner's house, they found the shoes matching the prints found at the scene, as well as the crowbar that he had assaulted Mr. Hayes with. Now, it appeared to be wiped off, but with the use of luminol, it showed the blood of Mr. Hayes. As well as that, a burn barrel found in his backyard showed that he had indeed taken all of the evidence that he had ever been at Brian Hayes' house and had attempted to burn it. However, he did not realize that it was raining that day, and evidence of the shirt found at the scene was also left over. Mr. Brian Hayes sadly died in 2017 of a heart attack. So he is not here today to defend himself, that it was indeed Jonathan Turner who attempted to murder him. With the evidence here today, I am proving to the jury that is sitting here that it was indeed Jonathan Turner. That is all, Your Honor. Thank you.
Defendant Attorney Sharp, you may begin your opening statements. You have 5 minutes, and your time will start now. Begin.
Hello, I am Mrs. Amy Sharp, defense attorney for Mr. Jonathan Turner in the state of Idaho versus Jonathan Turner. I'm here today because an innocent man was framed for 3 counts of arson, 2 attempted murder, and assault with a deadly weapon. I know that this man is innocent because back in September in 2014, when the framing occurred, they had a previous trial and the police were trigger happy and disregarded important evidence that could have set an innocent man free. Now that we have the new testimony of Dexter Hamilton admitting to be
hired by Brian Hayes to take Jonathan Turner's identity and commit this crime. The DNA evidence does not match Jonathan Turner's, having an unknown match, and the DNA evidence was found missing after the trial in 2014. We have a police report of the stolen property, and there was no blood at the scene that was Jonathan Turner's. Jonathan Turner's shoes were stolen from his home by Dexter Hamilton in order to make footprints at the crime scene, and the shirt and head hair was also stolen back from his home. The crowbar at the scene was planted back in Jonathan's shop, which Dexter Hamilton used to assault Brian Hayes. And the 9mm Glock gun was certified in Brian Hayes' name, and Jonathan Turner had never seen or touched it. When the police tested Jonathan Turner for gun residue, he tested negative. The pipe bombs were planted in Brian Hayes' home by Dexter Hamilton, as that is his specialty. And the gas can found at the scene has an unknown match. Dexter Hamilton was wearing gloves, as did not leave fingerprints. We have the alibi of Mrs. Sabrina Miss Jones, and as Jonathan was helping her that day, and framing, excuse me. And we have the receipt of Home Depot around the time of the framing. I've taken on this case because this man has been falsely accused of these crimes. And with all the evidence here today, and the testimonies of the witnesses and alibis, I hope that the court and jury can let this innocent man free.
Does any of the jury have any questions for the opening statements?
Do we need to ask questions?
Like when we opened the floor to you, I didn't have any questions for them. I want to hear more of the case, but if you guys have any questions, now's your chance to raise your card and questions.
Was Brian Hayes, was he conscious when they showed up?
That was your question too.
He was drifting in and out of consciousness, but when he was taken into the ambulance, he was still drifting in and out of consciousness. He suffered an extreme concussion.
Any other questions?
Look at the insurance records. Was Brian able to identify the person in the shop?
That's the question.
Yes, he was. Before he passed away in 2017, during the first trial, then there is a tape containing what he saw and witnessed that day.
Now begin the questioning of the witnesses, starting with Miss Miller. Will you please come to the stand? Put your right hand in the Bible. Now you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Now will you state your full name?
Ava Marie Miller.
You may be seated. Prosecuting Attorney Shaw, you may begin the direct examination with the prosecutor's witness. You have 5 minutes, and your time will start now.
Miss Miller, who exactly are you to Mrs. White?
I am an old friend. We've known each other for what, 10 years now?
Yeah.
I live right across the street from her, so yeah, I saw the whole crime. We've been friends forever, and
So you visited there frequently?
yes.
All right, and have you ever seen Jonathan Turner before?
I've seen a picture of him from when he got married years back, so he was pretty young, I haven't really seen him, no.
You've never seen him at festivals or community projects or anything of the sort?
Olivia may have pointed them out to me a couple times, but I don't have a personal relationship with him at all, or don't know him very well.
All right, so in your own words, what did you see concerning the crime?
Well, I was in my kitchen, I was baking, and that's when I heard this big, loud voice, it sounded like this, BOOM! And there was 3 of them, and it scared me so bad I had a heart attack. I ran to the window to see
saw that Brian's house was on fire in 3 different places. You know, the shop was the shop was on fire, the house was on fire, his truck was on fire. It was bad. And then that's when I saw Brian run out of his house. He was not happy. I mean, like, I wouldn't be happy if my house got blown up, would you? He ran out. He was so mad. He was yelling and whatever. I couldn't really make out words. But then he saw Jonathan, you know, because Jonathan was still there. And he came over to them and they started fighting. And that's when Jonathan grabbed that crowbar and whacked him on the head. And, you know, Brian's quite a little man and he was not winning that fight. Jonathan was way bigger than him. He was hitting him. Oh, it was bad. And that's when I finally was like, oh my goodness, I gotta call Olivia. And so I ran around trying to find my phone. But you know, I'm 54 years old. I don't know how to run those bank cell phones. So it took me a while to dial Olivia. I called her and I was like, Olivia, your house is on fire. Get home, you know. Call the police. I don't know how to call 911. And so I told her that and I hung up. She was only, you know, 4 minutes away at the grocery store. She came rushing back, and I was still watching this fight, and he was going back and forth, and Olivia pulls up, and that's when Jonathan pushed him to the ground, pulled out a gun, and shot, hit his leg, and Olivia screamed. She ran over there, and he pointed the gun at my poor Olivia. It almost hit her. He pointed right at her and shot and missed and hit a tree. That was a miracle all by itself. She almost died. I could have died. I was just right across the street. He could have pointed that gun at me and shot me. I'm surprised my house didn't light on fire. And then, after he shot at Olivia, he was frightened or like a little coward, and he dropped that gun and ran like a little jackrabbit out of and ran to the forest behind the tree wherever his truck was parked. I don't know.
Alright, so around what time did you call Olivia?
I believe 6:40. I think it showed on my phone, you know, and I've written it down. So.
Around 6:40. Alright, and so Mr. Turner ran, correct?
Yes.
And he indeed assaulted him with a crowbar.
Yes, I saw him whack him over the head. And, you know, Brian had the bruises to prove it. He went to the hospital.
So did you take any pictures concerning this crime?
I did. After, you know, they all left, you know, because I forgot to take pictures of when they were there, you know, when I done mine. I took some pictures after, though, and there's a picture of the house burning. What a terrible thing. All their belongings were lost that day.
Alright, maybe see these photos that she took.
I guess I'm the only one that knows. So back to the house, you know, and I'm sitting in it zoomed up a little bit, but I'm across the street and I saw a whole thing in the front yard there. Yeah, burnt to smithereens. Anyways.
Alright, so you were 100% positive that this was Jonathan Turner, is that right?
There's not a doubt in my mind that he committed that crime.
And the police, after the crime was committed, the police had to pick Jonathan Turner out of a line of men, is that correct?
Yes, they showed me a line of people, all criminals, you know, whatever. And I picked out the one that I saw at this crime scene, and it was Jonathan Turner.
Alright, that is all my questions, thank you.
Carry on, I'll ask my questions after.
Defendant Attorney Sharp, you may begin the cross-examination with the prosecutor's witness. You have 5 minutes, and your time will start now.
Miss Ava Marie Miller, what is the distance, you know, the average distance between your house and Mr. Brian Davis' house?
Well, you saw the photo, you know, right across the street. I'm not sure what the exact measurements are. It's 7 years ago, and the house is no longer there. I'm not sure. But it was, I could see clearly, you know.
Did you or did you not see the man wearing a hat?
He was wearing a blue hat, yes.
Was it on his head the whole entire time?
I believe so.
Thank you. And so, previously you said that Miss Olivia and Mr. Brian, they showed you pictures of Mr. Jonathan Turner a few years back when he was married.
Yes, but that was what, 5 years back? You know, he had changed a lot. I didn't really know what he looked like that much.
Yes. So, if you were shown of a picture from Jonathan Turner already, how can we, you know, trust your judgment when you say that you picked him out of a line of men, when you've already seen a picture of him? And you would already know who Jonathan Turner looked like.
Are you calling me a liar? I never lied. I got it there and I
picked out the person that I saw at that crime scene. That man over there did not look like the person I saw at that crime. He does not have tattoos, and they had different color of hair. You know, his hair was blown out of his hat. I could see it.
Was it or was it not? You know, smoke in these pictures is extremely smoky.
I saw fire at first, so it wasn't still smoky, so that's why I got a picture of I didn't think that bad it was.
And, you know, with these pictures from 20 years back, how can you be 100% sure it was Mr. Jonathan Turner at the scene?
You're right. It was a long time ago, but I did a statement, and I remember that night so many times in my life. You know, it's like playing a video, watching a movie, you know, in my brain. I can see every little thing all clearly as day.
Oh, and how old were you at the time of the crime?
I was 54.
Is there a possibility that you could have been paid off by Mr. Brian Hayes to identify the man as Jonathan Turner?
There is not.
You are?
I know Brian very well, but I would never lie on the stand in front of all these people for him.
Yeah, I have a few questions. Young lady, you realize that this man is on trial, and he went to prison already due to the statements that you made, so I want you to really think hard and make sure that you know that what you're saying here, this is a chance that you actually did. This is a new trial. And you, back then, may have had a clouded judgment of not. So I want you to think about this really carefully. And I have a few questions, and one is, did you take these pictures? Are
Yes.
these actually off of your phone? You have a Facebook account?
No,
You have a Twitter?
no, that's for young people, you know, I think that's a trap. People are wasting their lives with that stuff.
So, why would you take pictures, or why couldn't you dial 911?
I had barely gotten the phone, you know, and I'm still trying to figure out how to get in contacts and things, you know.
You say you're dialing,
Olivia, she was the one that I had in my contacts, you know, favorites.
but you can't remember 911.
I know it
House is on
sounds
fire.
stupid. I know it sounds stupid, but yes.
So, would you say that you have any kind of prejudice toward Jonathan?
I wouldn't say so. I would never want an innocent man to go to prison. And that's why I'm only saying all these things because I'm 100% sure that it was him. And I don't want
Do you wear
Olivia.
glasses or contacts?
At the time I had glasses, but now I got latex surgery and I'm different phone. Not latex, sorry. Whatever it's called, I'm getting it sometimes. You know, where they fix your eyes, those lasers, you know, for real bad for on Facebook. But yeah, so I have that now, so I have glasses.
Okay, so, was it smoking?
It was,
So
but
at the time you had glasses?
yeah,
Was your glasses on?
yes.
Did you have hard time?
No, I had it, but not in the morning.
Okay, so, and you see this guy and you say he had a blue hat.
Yes.
And so in the smoke, that wasn't even.
It was after, you know, it's kind of hard to see them after a while, but at first I didn't get a clear image and tried to remember everything that I saw.
While you're taking the pictures?
I wasn't taking pictures because I should have taken pictures of the crime, but you know, I stayed that.
Generally, people take pictures, instead of calling 911, they just take pictures, put it on Facebook.
Again, I didn't have Facebook.
Okay, so, you told the audience here in the courtroom that when this happened, you heard a big explosion.
Yes.
You said,
Pretty much.
no, you said you heard an explosion. That was my question. Did you hear what?
Oh, well, what I said is that I heard a big loud noise, it was like boom, you know, and I struck them, and I heard.
But now you're saying there's 3 of them.
But I said that after I said I heard 3 big loud bangs, and then I ran to the window. There were separate times, you know. Ran to the window, and that's when I saw that everything was exploded on fire.
No further questions? We can ask, the jury can now ask some questions.
So,
Mr. Miller?
yes.
Ava,
So, David is 54, and could you actually see that really clearly the whole crime from your house?
Like I said, I had prescription glasses, so it's just like I can see as well as you can. You know.
order.
Are you asking if I was bribed to say all these things? No.
Asking you if there's any significant amount of money that was given to you at the time.
No, I'm not a rich lady. I'm scraping by, well, not scraping by, I'm quite comfortable, but I'm not so comfortable like you're saying, having that much money, no.
I'm wondering when they called the fireman, I thought I called fireman.
Yes, they were still trying to put the fire out, and that's when I was taking pictures. The firemen, or whatever, the police, they arrived a couple minutes after, what?
6:57 is the exact time.
That the policemen arrived. And that was after Jonathan had already left the scene.
I never called the police or the fire 911.
Olivia,
What time of year was this?
September 6th.
Okay, so it would have been dark at 6:40.
it got dark after. This is after a while. This is like what?
I think it's dark in September before 6, right?
No, because
So it'd be quite difficult for you to have perfect.
it was a full moon that night. It was quite bright, but also the sun was not going down. It was not that dark. That is a couple hours after.
Can you verify that it was a full moon?
Yes,
Can anybody else collaborate then?
yes.
As the MC, the September 6th, 2014 was a clear night with no clouds. It was a full moon and it was not dark. At 6:47 when Olivia was called. Where at the time police arrived, yes, darkness would have been setting in. Those are statistics, all facts.
Awful darkness, you could.
Yeah, as you can see how much the house has burned down. It's been a while, so that's probably what, 8, 9 o'clock.
Well, full moon hasn't been changed.
Are you coming?
Even on the first picture where it's first on fire, it's still dark.
No, pretty sure it's fine. As you can see, I can see clearly. You can see clearly.
You said that Mr. Hayes was shot before Olivia got there. The prosecuting attorney said that he shot at Olivia and hit Mr. Hayes. Do you remember clearly if he was shot before or after Olivia got there?
It was, so he had shoved him down, Olivia drove up. She jumped out of the car, and like she said, she was right. I was just took me a while to get everything out, because I can't say everything at once. So she stepped out. He shoved him down. She screamed, because she could see that he was pointing, and that's what scared him. Shot his leg. She ran over there, frantic, and then that's when he pulled the gun on her right and shot her, missed her, dropped the gun, ran like a little jackrabbit through the woods.
Were you on any sort of pain then?
I'm a healthy old grandma. Your grandma, how many grandkids? I have 3. No.
So, you said you had perfect vision. How come you were able to see everything, the whole everything at the same time, so you could be on the window?
Because as I said, it got smoky after a while, or what are you saying?
But you said you could only, in your window, all you could see was Jonathan Turner and fighting, and then you said you saw Olivia.
I saw the whole thing. I just said she pulled up, and then she jumped out of the car, screamed, scared him. Same thing.
Did you come out of the house, or all that you saw out the window?
I was way too afraid to go out of my house. I saw all from the window, but then after Jonathan left, then I did walk out. You can see some of the pictures that I'm closer to the house.
So you could see the fight and everything directly from your window?
Yes, I had a clear view of their house, yeah.
So, one more question. So, when you say you picked him out of a lineup,
Yes.
was this other man who's on trial now, was he in that lineup?
No, at the time, they didn't think he was anything of the case, no. And I don't think he is, so no, he wasn't in the lineup. And as you can see, they don't look anything alike. I would not get the two mixed up.
How long after did you do that lineup?
I believe it was 2 days after.
street.
Yes, across the street. I was across the street. So I was looking at like my.
Did you see his face or just his hat?
I saw his face.
What color was his hair?
Blonde.
You're looking out your kitchen window when you're baking?
Yes.
You know, because that's the first thing I did. Heard the bangs,
Looked out the window.
No offense. How often do you clean your windows?
I'm a very tidy old lady, so yes, there were clean things.
Any other questions? So I have one more question for you. You say you had LASIK surgery. Oh, you were back this time, since
Yes.
then you had LASIK. So do you wear readers?
Yes, I did.
So when you got on the phone, looking at numbers, is that hard for you to see?
That's probably why it took so long to actually call her.
And so when you're looking out the window, and you're trying to call her, well, Jonathan Turner here, you're pointing at her, trying to shoot her, you didn't call her.
No, he did not do that at that time.
And you said that you watched that happen, well, before you called 911, that happened.
I didn't call 911.
Or before you called her, she called 911.
So what happened is, I saw it, and then I went by my phone for a second, found my phone, called her, went back to the window where I was calling, and I said, hey guys, get here. No,
And you
and
never watched her getting shot.
then she was not there until after like 4 minutes of calling, so I wasn't dialing and watching everything get shot at the same time.
Okay, no further questions? Or one more here.
So, what color were his eyebrows?
Now that, I don't look at people's eyebrows, I just look at face. It was 7 years ago. It was 7 years ago. I don't remember. But I imagine that they were normal.
Okay, no further questions?
Mrs. Jones, will you please come and stand? Put your right hand on the Bible. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Now will you state your full name?
My name is Miss Sabrina Miss Jones.
Defendant Attorney Sharp, you may begin the direct examination with the defendant's witness. You have 5 minutes, and your time will start now. Begin.
So, Mrs. Sabrina Jones, what do you consider yourself to Mr. Jonathan?
I am his other mother to my son. I call him my son because my husband took him in when he had tried to commit suicide after his wife was killed. My husband got him on his feet, and he lived in our house, and I cleaned him.
And please tell the court, jury, and witnesses today your side of the story.
Well, my husband had kidney failure, and so he passed away. His name was Uncle Kai Jones, and he was a police officer. But we both had health issues, and I decided that I wanted to move down to by Cedar Street down in Sandpoint. I wanted to move a little bit closer to the hospital because of my health issues. And Jonathan was helping me move all my fridges and couch and everything. On that Saturday, he was going to spend the whole Saturday with me moving all my belongings down to my house on Cedar Street.
And was he with you all day?
He was with me the entire day except for the 1 hour, he went to up to Home Depot to get a rope so that we could tie all my couch and my freezer onto his pickup truck.
And how far is it to Home Depot?
It is approximately about 12 miles from my house on Cedar Street up to Home Depot.
Only from your house to Home Depot, no back and forth.
No, just from there going, just about 12 minutes.
And he was going because you had to go get some.
Rope, because I did not have strong enough rope. We have turned in the receipt that showed the time, that showed that he actually did go to Home Depot on the last try.
And did Jonathan come back from going to Home Depot? Did he smell like anything or have any evidence of being in a fight whatsoever?
No, he looked exactly the same. He did not stink at all. I would have noticed that.
And any soot or anything?
No, sir, he was a little bit dusty because we were moving furniture. And you know how when you move furniture, you get lots of dust and stuff. And I might not have been the best housekeeper.
And do you believe that Jonathan Turner is guilty of these crimes which are being pressed against him?
My son is innocent of all these charges. I have visited him twice a week for the last 7 years, and we are definitely ready for him to be free because he is an innocent man.
That's all my question.
Thank you.
Prosecuting Attorney Shaw, you may begin the cross-examination to the defendant's witness. You have 5 minutes, and your time will start now. Begin.
Miss Jones, so you must know Jonathan fairly well, really well, for him to consider you his other mother.
I've known him since he was 16 years old.
All right, and he left at around 6 o'clock. What time did he return?
I would say a little about 7-ish.
All right, and when he returned, what did you do after?
Well, we decided we was going to go over to Arby's and we was going to get a beef and cheddar, so we headed over to Arby's, over down by the dry cleaners in Sandpoint.
All right, and do you know about what time he got home?
I would say it was a little before 7. I'm not a watch wearer, so I don't know exactly what time, but somewhere around there.
All right, did you ride in your vehicle or his?
We rode in his truck.
All right, did you happen to look in the back of the truck?
I did not.
All right, so you said he left around 6 o'clock, is that correct?
That is correct.
And in the receipt here, you have that it says 6:24, correct?
That is correct.
All right, according to my timeline that I've assembled from both sides, he left around 6 o'clock. 6:24 is when you left Home Depot, or 6:25. And by 6:28, Jonathan would have had been at Brian's. At 6:40, Miss Miller calls Olivia. 6:42, Olivia calls 911. 6:47, Brian gets shot. Mr. Turner leaves. 6:57, police arrive, and by 7:02, he is back home with around 24 minutes, give or take, to commit the crime. And you said he returned somewhere around 7 o'clock, is that correct?
That is correct.
But you have no definite number of when he returned.
I do not have a definite number, but it was around 7-ish because by the time we got to Arby's, and it was quarter after 7.
All right. So according to the timeline, he definitely had enough time to commit this. And you are his alibi, correct?
I am his alibi.
He didn't smell like anything?
Jonathan has always smelled good, and he still smelled good that night.
And did he seem offish about anything?
He did not.
So you have no idea what happened from approximately 6 o'clock, give or take, to 7 o'clock.
I don't, other than he said he went to Home Depot, he picked up the rope. When he came out of Home Depot, there was a gentleman there that was having car troubles, and he asked if he could help jump his car. I don't know how long that took, he just had made that as a side comment.
All right, so you know him quite well. In the past, has he ever expressed hatred at all towards Mr. Pace?
Oh, yes.
So he's hated him.
Oh, yes.
So blamed him.
Oh, yes.
And he's an electrician.
Yes, yes.
So he knows how to assemble light bulbs.
I've never seen him do anything like that. He's a good boy.
Yeah, but
He has his own business.
if he's anything like a man, which he is, he looks up YouTube videos. He's an electrician. He probably has looked up how to assemble pipe bombs, just like every other man, or something to that extent.
He might have looked at how to build a pipe.
All right. So he returned to his house. You don't live together with him?
No, he is in his house. He was helping me to move to my house down on Cedar Street.
All right, and then he returned to his house.
No, No, we finished for the rest of the night. Police officer even showed up.
Ms. Shaw,
Yes.
do not put all men in the same category. We don't all look up like one.
My sentence exactly, Your Honor.
Okay?
All right, so about what time do you finish?
I'd say it's probably around 9:30.
All right, that's enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I did. So, he had car trouble, or he helped someone, you say someone else had car trouble?
It was a passing comment. He said that someone had a dead battery and wondered if he could help me start it. It was just a passing comment.
And did he ever make any comments about wanting to hurt?
Brian Hayes?
Yes.
Yes. He did not
Did he
get
want
along
to
with the
injure
guy. He did for injure him.
He did, are you saying he did injure him, or are you saying he couldn't have injured him?
No, he has injured him a few times, but Brian Hayes injured him back.
With the crowbar?
I do not know nothing about the crowbar, but I do know when they were working for Diamond Roofs Construction, they were at odds with each other. Brian Hayes was a little bit jealous because he got the girl.
That's an assumption.
Yes.
Okay, and in your testimony, in your deposition, you stated that you was visiting Jonathan Turner in prison about every month. Just now you said that you're visiting him twice a week.
That was a miscorrection. I visited him at least twice a week.
Very good. Any other questions from the jury?
How old was John when he came to live with you and your husband?
He was 30 years old.
And you said he's known since he was 16?
Yes, since he was 16, he was my neighbor.
Go ahead.
Is there any contact with this person that he did their vehicle or not?
To my knowledge, I have not heard of anyone, but I do not know that the police actually even followed that lead line. That's my sentiments exactly.
If that makes sense. There was Home Depot surveillance, but every 2 weeks it's wiped. So they did not have any video surveillance at that time.
Do you remember the color of shirt he was wearing that day?
I do. It was a plaid shirt that he usually wore on Saturdays.
Did it have any yellow in it?
Did the plaid shirt have yellow in it? I believe it did.
How did you get a picture of the receipt?
We just contacted Home Depot. Well, I have the receipts. He gave it to me. We're the ones who turned it into the police.
What is the swing by couplings?
Oh! A swing pile company? A swing pile company is sometimes when you are tying down, you have to have a swing pipe to put the rope around. So I didn't want my couch to get bent, so we had the swing pipe so that it would not bend. What's that?
Any rope on that?
Yeah.
There is rope, and there's also a candy bar.
Does anybody have the time, how much time it would take to drive from where your house is, where he was maybe helping you move, to where the house got burned down, or from Home Depot to where the house got burned down?
I don't know from Home Depot to Mrs. White's house, but I do know from Cedar Street to Home Depot is 12 minutes. We got our ANSI.
Yes, this was all fine.
229.
Did Jonathan ever say that he wanted to kill Brian?
Never said he wanted to kill him, but he definitely didn't mind hurting him. he wearing? What color of a hat he was wearing? A navy blue hat?
So, I guess to you, prosecutor, it said something about there being a shirt at the scene, is that correct?
Yes.
So to you, did his shirt change colors?
It was the same shirt.
Was this a partial shirt?
If I may. Mr. Ryan Hayes, in order to not smell like smoke, actually would have changed shirts because the whole bag of evidence, everything that he was wearing, was found behind his house in the burn barrel, and what was recovered of that was the shirt with his DNA on it.
I think your collection is Jonathan, not Brian.
Oh, excuse me, Jonathan.
Back to you. Did he change?
He was wearing the exact same shirt that he left the hour before, and when he came back,
So to you again, when he went to the dusty, did he come back clean?
no, he did not.
Mrs. Jones, do you remember a barrel burning in your backyard?
In my backyard?
Didn't John live at your house?
No, he did not. He's already moved to my house.
Was it his house? To 2033.
So, how far from your house to Mrs. White's house?
To Mrs. White's house. I haven't been there. I have driven by there before. I would say 16 minutes.
So there is a
I,
chance.
I honestly do not know that one. That is just my assumption.
Is there a chance that you could have gone to, there are two sets of up and then go back together?
Are you saying my son's guilty?
No, I'm just wondering.
No, no.
So was that,
He's a good boy.
in the driving that they did, was that tested over to Mrs. White's house?
It would be faster to drive directly from Mrs. Jones' house to Brian's house, but it does take 16 minutes if you went from Home Depot, then the 4 minutes from Home Depot to Brian's house. So it's actually about 14 minutes if you went there directly from house to house.
So we still had 24 minutes that he could have done.
Yes, there's a solid 24 minutes there to find what's committed.
Okay. One more question. 25.
How did Jonathan keep his hair?
How did Jonathan keep his hair? Very, very, kind of curly around the back, and they're a little bit long, just, did he comb it off?
Was it like nice?
Oh, Jonathan is a nice kept kid, but he was working that day, and he was wearing a cap.
So what time did,
The crime would have had to have occurred 6:28 through approximately 6:47 to 6:48, which is when he would have left.
So it's 4 minutes from Brian Hayes' house to Home Depot? How long would it take to go from Home Depot to Brian's house?
Well, if we're looking at the full picture here, it would have taken 16 minutes to get from Miss Jones' house to Home Depot as well as Brian, so that would have been around 2 minutes.
Because it says 6:24 right there, or the bottom right there. Then it means 1 minute later, that's when the drive started. It took him 2 minutes, and he was like chilling there for a while.
Ben?
He was helping the men jumpstart his vehicle. So that could have happened for however long. And then he left Home Depot back for Mrs. Jones' house.
Any other questions?
What color was the shirt that you found after the crime?
Are you referring to the shirt that was burnt, that was found burnt? It's an array of different colors, but blue, red, and yellow streaks.
small. Definitely not recognizable unless you are staring at the shirt for a very long time.
Is that hat available to kids?
The hat was in the burn barrel, but it was burned as were most of the other, no, the only thing remaining was the shirt. So there was no hat available, nor pants, nor any other clothing.
Are you able to make a statement about the hat was for sure in that room?
It was in the ash, however, that it was burnt, so I do not believe that it would be necessarily recognizable. So,
How confident are you that it was 7:15 when you made it?
How confident, just listening to the radio is all. I would say, like I said, I wasn't wearing a watch, but that's about what I would estimate.
Your time doesn't match up. It just wasn't lining up unless you're not on it. So, you as a prosecutor, are you sure that crime started at 6:28?
that is when Ryan would have had to arrive if he had left Home Depot. Just that's it.
Okay, we've got to move on here. But I have one more question. If he went through all of this and burned the clothes, why would he have boots?
If you would like to take a smell of these boots, they are indeed his work boots, and they are very nice.
I haven't had a smell since cold. So, but seriously, he went through all of that.
They are extremely pricey, and I don't think,
So it's 20 years.
well, I don't actually think that Mr. Turner would have realized footprints would have been in the evidence. I don't even think that he was trying to get caught at all.
He was smart enough to wear gloves, to change his clothes and burn them. You don't need to worry about footprints.
I cannot be in Mr. Turner's mind. I don't know what he was thinking. I can only assume what he may have been thinking. But I cannot actually tell you what exactly he was thinking in that moment and why he was not wearing his shoes.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you.
Next witness, Ms. Smith, will you please come to stand? Put your right hand in the Bible. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Now will you state your full name?
Kiara Ray Smith.
You may be seated. Prosecuting Attorney Shaw, you may begin the direct examination with the prosecutor's witness. You have 5 minutes, and your time will start now. Begin.
In your own words, Ms. Smith, would you please tell the jury here what exactly you witnessed 2 days prior to the crime that was committed?
Well, I can't tell you all of the details, but I can tell you most of them. So, I was getting done cleaning Miss Olivia's house because I'm her house cleaner. And I walked outside and I saw this man scoping outside. And I've never seen him before. So I kind of like kept my distance when I was walking up to him and I asked him what he was doing. He said he was looking for tools, which was a little strange.
All right, did you ask the man his name?
I did asked him how he was like related to Miss White and Brian, and he said he was an old friend, and then he said his name was David.
All right, and did he look suspicious to you?
He looked pretty suspicious. He was wearing this hat and then he was kind of tilting his head down a little bit, but
So did it look like he was looking for anything, or?
like I said, he was scoping around like outside the tap, and so maybe he was looking for something, but he did say tools as well. So.
All right, can you identify the man who you saw? Like,
Right in this room,
yes.
that man.
All right, and have you ever seen him before?
The only time I saw him was at their house Yeah, the day of that fair.
Okay. Around how close were you then to him? Just like, give me an estimate of how much money that may have been.
I'm pretty far away, so probably like 15 yards, strange thing, right? No, I want to get close to that man.
All right, and so you said you were by his hat, is that right? Or no, he was by his hat.
Yeah, I wasn't about to have at all, but he was. He was kind of like circling around it.
All right, and what did you do after you called out to him and asked his name?
I got his name, and then I went to my car to get home because my mom was expecting me home for dinner. And I called Brian and told him all about this man named David.
All right, and what did he say?
Brian?
Yes, right.
I don't really remember, but he was kind of like going on asking me a whole bunch of questions, and then he was furious and hung up.
All right, were there any specific features that stood out to you of Mr. Turner?
None other than he had like long hair. That was kind of really like going outside with that.
All right, that's
Okay.
Defendant Attorney Sharp, you may begin the cross-examination to the prosecutor's witness. You have 5 minutes, and your time will start now. Begin.
Miss Kiara Smith, how old were you at the time of the crime?
I was around 17 years old.
17, so you still lived with your parents.
I did.
You weren't quite an adult.
No.
So, you were a minor, so couldn't it be possible that Mr. Brian is in your arm?
Never. No, never. At all.
Okay. And were you inside or outside the house?
Outside?
And do you or do you not know Mr. Jonathan?
I mean,
Yes.
no, not on a personal level, no.
And why are you testifying against someone you don't know?
Because I saw him scoping around at their house and he looked like he was up to no good, so why wouldn't I want to testify against him?
And are you 100% sure you saw that man?
I'm 100% sure I saw that man.
How can you be 100% sure from 15 yards away?
I know what I saw.
Any questions? Yes.
How can I be 100% sure? Because I have a good memory.
And what do you gain for testifying against Jonathan?
That my life is not in danger.
And why would your life be in danger if you never even knew him?
Because I witnessed him do something. Obviously, he's a bad man, and he probably would come and hurt me.
Yes. So you worked for Brian Hayes?
I do. Well, I did.
You did. Did you ever hear him talk about a guy named John?
Well, there was this one time, I kind of listening on and off. I didn't hear much, I just heard him and this black arguing, and whatever.
About?
This guy.
Do you know what he said? But you did it sound like they were buddies or they liked each other?
I didn't like that.
So you know how you tell? Because you said you didn't hear anything. You obviously heard other things.
Well, I just heard him say, like, he didn't really like him. I didn't really listen for too long, so I'm not business.
But you worked for him. So did you think he could have wanted to hurt John?
I don't know. I don't,
Was he a mean person? Was he a good employer?
right?
Yes.
Yeah, no, not at all. He was really nice.
Yes, no, not at all. He was really nice.
Sorry, I said the one off that he was really nice.
Did he pay you?
They say it's like a long time,
Every time, never? No problem.
no problem.
Did you get any kind of extra money after this house burned?
Well,
And then what did you work for him after the house was burned?
not to, no. I did because there's no house to clean.
But he obviously had to go somewhere. But he didn't hire you after that? You didn't think you might have done a scapegoat? Kind of, yeah.
I finished school and got a different job.
Well, I have the jury ask the question.
about David, were you like just stepping out of the door, or were you like kind of out of the yard, or?
I was like walking, because we walk out onto the path, and then there's like a little bit of stairs to go down to the pathway. And I was walking down those stairs and I saw him.
And so the path is clearly there away. Is there like a lawn somewhere, a big lawn out there or something?
Yes, there was.
So, David, and what you just mentioned, you said you heard the name David as you're walking out of the room. I'm wondering if this is a mispronunciation because his name is John.
His middle name is David.
Okay. It doesn't say that. Was he ever referred to as David by anyone?
No.
So, could have been that he was talking about this David was Mr. Turner talking about the David that he met in the yard. Are you sure it was a different David? Did they refer to this guy here as John, not David? And you heard Mr. Turner say something negative about David? Or,
Yeah.
so it could have been a different person.
It could have been, but probably.
But you said affirmatively that it was 100% him.
Yeah.
Now you're saying that maybe it could not have been possible?
Not,
Because you actually don't know him.
No.
You've seen this guy, but you don't know him. And it's been 7 years, so you're going on to a 7-year memory. So it could have been, it could not be. You're still 100% sure.
Miss Olivia White was the recipient of that conversation, and she can identify that it was indeed John that they were talking about.
Very good. Maybe dismissed unless we have other questions.
So were you there when the fire started?
Me? No.
So you had already left it, so David was just walking around, just kind of just walking around, didn't go outside the truck or anything?
That was 2 days ago when I saw him. 2 days later than that, when the fire happened.
Did you see his vehicle that he was driving?
I didn't. I wasn't there for too long. I just went and got my vehicle and left.
Very good. Maybe dismissed.
Would you write in your Bible? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Now will you state your full name?
Dexter Hamilton. Dexter Hamilton. Y'all can call me Ebon.
Defendant Attorney Sharp, you may begin the direct examination with the defendant's witness. You have 5 minutes, and your time will start now.
Mr. Dexter Hamilton, what is your connection to Mr. Brian Hicks?
Brian Hayes. While back, yes. He's the one who asked me to do a job of framing a guy named Jonathan David Turner. And later on, met this guy. Alright. It's not. So, supposed to frame this guy, make it look all realistic. Just another job.
And how did you, in your own words, can you tell us, the jury and the audience here today, how exactly did you plan on framing Mr. Jonathan Turner?
I was gonna burn some things and get some evidence, like, personal belongings, something that obviously Jonathan David Turner. I was given a name, address, some other information. I love to use bombs. That's what I do. I was gonna cause some fires with bombs.
And did you or did you not?
Oh, well, one more thing. Gonna rough up Brian a bit, but I guess I went too far at one point.
Did you or did you not go into Jonathan David Turner's house and steal items like his hair
I did.
or his shoes? Do you recognize these shoes at all?
Yes.
And the shirt. Did you steal a shirt?
Yeah, a shirt.
Was it perhaps this exact shirt?
Yes.
And this shirt was found in a burn bag. Can you explain how it got there?
Yeah, it was in Jonathan's backyard after I was done with the job. I put it there with the rest of these, the pants, the gloves I was wearing, and I lit it on fire. Except for the shoes that put those back in his house.
And so, 2 days before you framed Jonathan Turner, were you at Brian Hayes' house?
Yes, I was looking where to put the bombs.
And did you have any brief conversations with anyone at all?
There was this one really pretty young lady. She had like brownish hair, not super short, but
And can you identify that woman in this room?
that really beautiful one. She's still like pretty young. Got the one on the end.
And did you know that she was going to be there at all?
No, but it did help with like I was able to give someone the name of the person I was framing, Jonathan David Turner.
And why did you use his middle name instead of his first name?
Well, for one thing, if you're gonna believe somebody was that somebody gets caught, they're not gonna give their first name. And David's such an obvious common name.
And did you have anybody else in this plot with you?
I had this one buddy. His name was Lance. We called him Chuck.
And how did he help at all in this crime whatsoever?
Most of the time he checks the bodies, but this time he got information. He would watch his moves, Jonathan David Turner, to see what he was doing, follow him around, but like from enough distance that it wasn't too suspicious.
Yes, but how did he help in this chimera? How did you accomplish the task with Jonathan David Turner out of the way?
Well, he was like distraction if something would go wrong. He was following Jonathan the whole time, and he told me afterwards that at one point, then he had to use he had to get the vehicle jump started to distract the guy because I wasn't done yet. Like we stayed in contact the whole time so that I would know when to get out of there.
So it was this Lance that had Jonathan David Turner jump the vehicle? Okay.
Your time is up. Prosecuting Attorney Shaw, you may begin the cross-examination to the defendant's witness. You have 5 minutes, and your time will start now.
Mr. Hamilton, where did you meet Jonathan Turner?
Jonathan Turner. I met him at prison. We ended up in the same part of the area, and we were just all sharing stories. He started telling his, like how he was put in here, and I was like, that's the same guy that I was supposed to frame those years before. And it was just fun to start.
So why are you
besides framing him, getting him put in jail, I did really good at that job.
And are you very good friends with Mr. Turner?
Kinda, we were in the same place for a little while, but like, it's kind of annoying.
Right. Does Mr. Turner hold any resentment for the fact that you supposedly were the one who committed the crime?
I don't know, you could ask me, but I wouldn't forgive someone so easily. That Brian never paid me.
So you earlier stated,
Yeah.
so at any time, did you have contact with Brian?
I mean, we met at one point to discuss the deal, what was gonna go on.
Right. So did he like give you a schedule of sorts of when you could scope out the house?
The time that he would be there and his wife would be there, so, yeah.
All right, so earlier you stated that, so just now you stated that you did discuss the time schedule of sorts. So if you were working for Brian, my question would then be, why didn't he tell you about his cleaner? Because you were clearly surprised about Miss Smith being at the scene. You discussed your schedule with Mr. Hayes. So why didn't you know about the cleaner?
Yes, she don't know what that Brian's problem was. Apparently he didn't let me know.
All right, and earlier you stated as well, you said he told you you went too far. When was that?
Well, apparently he didn't expect me to beat him so hard.
My question was, when was that?
September 6th, when I actually went in. Bombs going, and I beat him, and
So while you were hitting him in the face with a crowbar, as we have the witness testify, as well as his body to prove that you did that, how were you able to have a conversation with him about him saying you're going too far?
pulled a gun.
And he was still able to talk even though he was drifting in and out of consciousness?
It wasn't at the moment. He pulled the gun, we were still fighting.
And he was talking? So do you remember anything of what he was saying to you besides, you're going too far?
I mean, he didn't say a lot, it's mostly like yelling. It's not really distinctive.
And you didn't think about the fact that you were killing this man and you're not going to get your payment if he's dead?
Actually, he was like, pulled the gun and just dropped it and then, like, I mean, give you the rest of the money, which is the stupidest thing to do. I got the gun and shot him in the leg, maybe he would still pay me later. I was warning some person. I didn't know they were going to be there, and I turned around and shot at them, then I decided to get the heck out of there.
Do you have any evidence that you were tied to this scene at all? That Mr. Turner is where he said he was with your buddy? Is there any evidence of that at all?
That he was there or that I was where.
That you were at the scene and that your buddy was at Home Depot?
I mean, I later found out that there was some unidentified DNA, so I got it to disappear.
Well, where did it go? Did you just completely, what did you do with it? Excuse me. What did you do with it? All right, so where's Chuck now? Why isn't he as well testifying with you?
Check. Well, a little while later, we had another job. We were supposed to kill a guy. We were a little bit too slow. He didn't check quite fast enough.
Stop. Yeah, I have questions. Mr. Dexter, What are you in prison for?
Like how long?
How long?
3 life sentences.
3 life sentences. What did you do to get put in prison?
Well, we were caught when we were kind of got a little bit slow at one time, and everything kind of spiraled out of control or whatever. We found out a few other things.
Remember, would you like a copy of exactly what he?
No, I want what he says about it. So, how many, so you have 3 life sentences you're in for? Do you have any chance of parole?
I don't think so.
So 3 life sentences, no chance of parole? Shot? Is that correct? No chance of parole for this guy?
There is no chance of parole.
So, is the question that have to be asked that maybe you would be telling your story to make this change so that you could maybe get out earlier or something? There's no chance of getting out. Right?
Yeah.
And so, are you good friends with John?
Not really, but I mean, we kind of met.
So do you feel like you owe him something because you framed him in your words? Or why would you go through the time to help him by taking this saying you did it when he obviously was already prosecuted? Revenge.
Can be held from either side of the bars.
So the revenge was against who?
Brian Hayes.
Why do you have revenge against Brian Hayes?
Didn't pay me the other half. Half before, half after would be good, man. He's just like, didn't do it.
Did he tell you to beat him up with a crowbar and shoot him in the leg, or was that part of
I
the plan?
shot him in the leg as a warning. I beat him, wanted it to look realistic, authentic. Someone who really hates him is gonna beat him half to death. He was still fine.
We also, the pictures you have of the pythons, someone asked the question, they say the pictures here you have, and I'm not a python expert, but apparently we have someone in the audience that is. It says there's a dead man switch on this, according to the python pictures you have here. And a dead man switch, you'd never be able to throw that without blowing you out. So do you have a dead man switch on this?
Yes.
So how did you get that set off without blowing yourself up? Answer the question.
We had one word, like tripwire swords or yeah.
You couldn't just build a normal pipe bomb with fuse.
I like to do things different sometimes.
Have you ever done drugs?
There was a time that I can't get a hold of in prison.
So were you on drugs at the time this happened?
No, I wouldn't be able to get it all the time. So elegantly and as well executed as I did, obviously this man's here.
Very good. We're going to have some questions from you, Jerry.
So what did Brian Hayes tell you to beat him up when he came out with a pistol, or did he just want you to blow his house?
Okay, so guess I went too far with being quiet so hard, but then he pulled a pistol and I didn't know that there was gonna be a pistol. Hold on, what do you read?
So, he wanted you to, did he want you to beat you up or just
Oh,
let it
right.
happen?
I think he didn't want his shop and his truck on fire that much, or even his house quite that much. And yeah, I guess he said I went too far with his truck, getting everything so fast on fire, beating it quite so hard.
He wanted you to just make a little fire, and
I
then
mean, enough that the guy could be
he
sick.
wanted it to where his house was destroyed and stuff. And so he didn't want you to beat him up, and
Oh, no. He wanted me to where it's like, he didn't want to be half in the emergency room.
and so it was you're a little bit, and then so he came out of the
Didn't say not to get him in the emergency room.
So he wanted you to make a little explosion, but when he came out with a pistol, you were just gonna beat him off, and when he pulled out the pistol, you had your crowbar, and you just decided to hit him with the crowbar because they had a pistol.
Those things are frightening. I'm gonna quote the other lady, I could have died.
Other questions?
What were you found in jail for and how you found it with?
Okay. First, ouch. Thought we were in for this. I was caught in check when, kind of a little bit, we were a few steps behind what we usually would have. We got caught with this one person and then kind of. And now, where were you again?
Next question?
If he's dead, what would you gain from this?
Oh, right. Revenge is more. You can get revenge more than just payment. It can be about payment. But getting it isn't stuck to that only.
So it's the prosecutor. When was this man indicted?
When was he arrested?
Yeah.
He was convicted November 21st, 2018 for 3 counts of first-degree murder, intent of causing harm, 23 counts of misdemeanor, 12 counts of arson, 5 counts of assault against a police officer, 5 counts of assault with a deadly weapon, 1 count of second-degree attempted murder.
So, Your Honor, what is just a typical span that you take to indict somebody? Because in my experience, any jury that I've ever seen, it takes 2 or 3 years to put it through. How long has this guy been in prison?
Apparently 2 years.
So you.
I'm not the guy that put him in prison.
I'm just talking to anybody, and was this man indicted within a year? In that sort of time frame?
It was 7 years that was stuck for a year.
But it's been 4 years, he didn't get caught for 4 years, right? Didn't get caught in 2018.
Correct. But not, he was never found out about this crime until he was when he told Jonathan in prison about it.
Yeah. Yeah, just timelines just didn't quite match up. Another question, on that pipe bomb that you have drawn there, to me it looks quite like a dead man switch, it looks like it has a timer, the switch to ignite the timer. But both the switch and the timer look like something you'd see in a
Can I
bathroom.
say something? Those aren't my bombs.
Those aren't your bombs.
That's just some bombs. My bombs. There was Jimmy, there was Lucy, and Jacqueline.
So those were not your bombs. You said 57 bombs. You were framed, you did this to frame Jonathan. Was that or was it not?
Pretty sure that they couldn't have gotten pictures of the bombs after they exploded. So that's why those aren't my bombs.
I'm pretty sure he's meaning that that specific picture was not his specific bomb. That's just an example.
Another, just kind of key point, so these shoes you have sitting here, in front of the Jonathan Turner, as we have heard, is Jonathan quite well off? Did he have multiple pairs of shoes, or what was he wearing at the time? If he was not wearing his boots, what was he wearing?
Nobody said those were his shoes, like I got them. They were found at his house. I wore them and put them in his house.
Not quite.
Pants and shoes, I got them. They were obviously not real new. I wore them on the scene. I brought them back with me to Jonathan's house, and I put them inside his house.
So what you're saying is those shoes are not Jonathan's shoes?
They look like it, being in his house.
But normally, so I guess for prosecution, is there no DNA evidence that those are his shoes that they were using to indict this man to his innocence, or propose the innocence?
Those are in fact his shoes. This is just an assumption of sorts made by Dexter Hamilton of who those shoes belong to, as Mr. Dexter Hamilton did not commit the crime Jonathan Turner did.
So you're assuming these are his shoes, just because they were in his house?
No, these are indeed his shoes. It would be assuming of Dexter Hamilton to assume that they weren't.
Was there any DNA evidence of anybody whose shoes those are? Just out of curiosity. Are we serious presuming that those shoes just happened to be one or the other? Or did they, I mean, obviously you guys searched for blood on the crowbar, did you check his shoes to see if that is?
I do not believe that the shoes were ever checked for evidence for DNA.
Where did you get the shoes?
They were just like secondhand, but those things were foul. That's why they were so cheap.
So where did you purchase them?
Uh,
How did you purchase them?
Had my left trying to get them.
Did you always remove the shoes from the bodies to check?
He was a really weird person, but we were buddies.
Did Jonathan get extremely upset when you told him that you were the one crazy?
Jonathan, I mean, who wouldn't? At first, you find out, you get to see the person face to face who actually framed you, but then had to explain. It wasn't just because I had nothing against him, I just hate him, and then, like, obviously it all clicked and we talked, but it was Brian. But yeah, he was mad when we first found out.
Did he try to hurt you?
Obviously, I mean, right at first. We're good now.
I have a question for your attorney. What is it in Dexter to claim this crime?
He wouldn't have anything because he is already serving 3 life sentences and he has no parole at all.
So what was wrong?
Revenge or a crime case.
So, when the housekeeper first came out the window, were you tilting
Out.
the door, or walking or whatever? Were you tilting your head because you didn't want her to identify your face, and so she would not
That hat kind of low. You don't want your face to be
You have
Yeah, I was wondering also, how much are they paying you to cover up for Mr. Hayes?
How much of it, what?
What are they paying you to cover up for Mr. Hayes?
They're not covering for Mr. Hayes.
Mr. Turner.
No, I'm not being paid. But I already wasn't paid. And it's like finally getting revenge after all these years. Only Pat is not a hole. Any 3-year-old knows that. The deal was like 25,000 is like over 10,000.
How much did you receive?
A little over 10,000. It's not the whole package.
So I'm wondering, where did you get John's hair?
Jonathan's hair was found in the mud covered in Brian Hayes' blood.
So then, Dexter, where did you find the hair that has been forcefully removed?
Learn to lock your back doors. That's how we got in.
So you didn't forcefully remove his hair? Or that you know about it?
Like, obviously he combed his hair in the morning. I got it from the bathroom after he left.
So when Miss Ava Miller was speaking, she said that he had his hat on the whole time. So Mr. Brian Hayes couldn't have yanked his hair and down on the ground. So it must have been planted.
That's not the case. And this is something that is seriously construed here. And your hair is wrong color. For starters, you're not blonde.
Getting paid a lot of money. It's not that much to get your hair a different color, to get it dyed, get it bleached.
Your locks look amazing, but I'm guessing that.
Thank you.
Did you firm your hair to get the curly effect? Because obviously you have straight hair.
Oh, my hair, it's kind of natural. It does whatever you want it to. But like, except for being blonde naturally.
You have tattoos on your face at the time.
Yeah. I was already. Yes, I did.
So you're being makeup.
I said I had tattoos on, but
Just obviously, nobody has pointed out that the witness of the person they saw had tattoos, which would make you less likely to be that person.
yeah, but without comment on makeup. It's kind of personal.
When did you get your tattoo?
Actually, it was a long time ago when I first joined we call ourselves like the Forest City gang. It's kind of weird, but like had two triangles. It's a tree.
What does the number on your forehead stand for?
Let's see, 792 was my birthday. 7th month. 792. Obviously my birthday.
What's the do? Is it like 2,000 or?
Second child.
Any other questions? deposition didn't say that's what the number was for, by the way, so.
It's like my birthday and also which child I am.
In your deposition, it says here that it was your student ID number.
That'd be stupid.
Is that not true? Or are you
It,
embarrassed?
what it was. Sorry.
Your Honor, I just don't know if we can believe anything you said.
Tattoo of which student they were.
It's your deposition. Any other questions? Oh,
What month he actually awarded?
January 4th, 1991.
so, Dexter, did you actually, or was it John? Did Jonathan put you up to this?
No, didn't put me up to counting.
Or did you actually, is your story one you just made up, or what are you giving him? Are you giving him something to do? He's innocent. Okay, any other questions?
So, the murderer of scissors, shirt, pants, ball cap, and glasses. How did they know there was all that in there for a person?
That is everything that was missing from her body.
But how did they know that he had that in the first place?
Obviously, he was wearing pants. Those were missing.
Why did he have a ball?
Excuse me?
Oh, a ball cap, oh.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, you may be dismissed. Do we have any other witnesses? Do we have? I have a question for Jonathan Turner. Are you going to be a witness for your own trial? Why not? Because what? And he is not going to be a witness in his own trial?
You would like to be questioned. The questioning? Not exactly the witness, but for the
They can be self-incriminating. We'll go ahead with the video and then decide. We'll let you decide. The video? How long is it?
But you know, I should say is that the jury is being reached down to an actual instrument, because we have 35 minutes of initial voting and not halfway done.
We can do that, but, do we need to take a break? These things usually take months. So, let's try and watch this, then we'll have a break. Then we'll decide with John and Turner. We lost evidence. Jonathan Turner, would you like to approach the bench, or would you rather not? Would you rather? opportunity if you want. You do not have to, and because if you could self-incriminate. But if you don't get up here before the jury, they will probably think you're guilty because you didn't want to defend yourself. So this is up to you. Can you cry in public? It might help. Remember, the judge here is only here to try to help bring out the truth, and then for sentencing after you've been guilty or against. Dexter is not on trial. You are. What'll be? Okay. Swearing in, sorry.
Raise your right hand in the Bible. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth will help you God?
I do.
Well, will you state your full name?
Jonathan David.
You may be seated.
I'll give you 1 minute if you would like to ask any questions. And then 1 minute, and then we'll have the jury ask questions.
Would you like me to direct the cross-examination? Ms. Sharp.
Defendant Attorney Sharp, you may begin the direct examination with the witness. You have 1 minute and your time will start now. Begin.
Mr. Jonathan David Turner, did you do these crimes?
I did not.
And with this, then, may I have one?
Yes.
Mr. Jonathan David Turner. You have your alibi, Mrs. Jones, and with your backstory of this, then do you hate Mr. Brian and Lydia?
I don't think it would. There's some paper.
And what extent? Would you go as far to shoot him? And
Your time is up. Prosecuting Attorney Shaw, you may begin the cross-examination with the defendant's witness. You have 1 minute and your time will start now.
Mr. Turner, earlier Dexter Hamilton mentioned that he placed the shoes inside the house. Now, you weren't arrested until 2 days after the crime was committed. Did you see these shoes at any point?
Did I see them?
No, did you see the shoes at all?
Have I ever seen them?
No, did you see them in your house? You said you planted them in your house. So, did you or did you not see the shoes?
I can't say that I did or that I didn't.
Are those your shoes?
Yes.
Those are your shoes. Therefore, Dexter Hamilton did not find the shoes. They already belonged to you. Alright, so you claim that you hated, or your mother, claimed that you had a very strong anger towards Mr. Brian Hayes. And you wouldn't mind hurting him. Can you explain to him your run-ins before the crime was committed?
Your time is up.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah, we have some questions now. So, you're pretty brave getting up here to try to plead your own case. And you don't have much on your side here. You've already spent time in prison. And so, I want you to convince this jury in your own words why you did or did not do. I want to give you that chance. So, talk to the jury. So you didn't commit this crime, did you hire Dexter? Was it hard to get him to say he did it? Or was you surprised when he said he told you he did it?
I was very surprised that he did it because I didn't know that somebody that they married him had done that. But
Do you have any questions from the jury? Okay. 28.
So, you didn't know someone did that in the area yet. So how come you were put in court? How come you were actually put in prison if you didn't even know anything about it?
because they came to the place that I worked and they arrested me.
Were you quite pleased when you found out that his house was burned down? Somebody hurt him?
I thought that I had to come in for him, but
Clarifying, you find those shoes?
yes,
Did they have blood on them?
I have no idea.
We know they have mud on them. Are you a master electrician?
I went to college for it.
You got the first 4 years of your journeyman, you started with business, then
Yeah.
but you classify yourself as smart.
Sure.
Are you smart enough to wire a bomb? Because that was not an ordinary bomb.
I don't think I would be able to make that one.
You don't think that you know.
I don't think I could.
So, what was the date when Dexter told you that he didn't want to turn you in?
I don't know the exact date, but it was probably about a year ago.
So right when you got it, right when you got it.
Yeah, it was like, it was already been serving time.
Where were you when you got arrested? Where were you when you got arrested?
I was going to
Any other questions?
Why is he here to testify for you? What evidence for him?
I don't think there's anything in it for him, but he told me that he wanted to.
He said for revenge. Any other questions? Okay. Should we take a 5-minute or 10-minute break? And then we'll start with the open court, and then we'll turn it over to the jury, judge, and execute. Jury, court dismissed. Okay, we'll be back in session. We're going to have the open statement.
couldn't find him, but I did not, make him stop, and he grabbed from the bar that I didn't see originally. He swung at me first thing and knocked me, got knocked me out really hard. He kept trying to swing it back and forth, and I was going to get it away from him when, after my fiance drove up, I heard a seamer, get out of the vehicle, and at that moment, I had already pulled my gun out, because, I had a gun, and I needed to defend myself, and I pulled it out, and right as I, took it out, and, he was trying to grab it from me, and turned on me, and he pulled the trigger, and it was like, I split a second, sat for screaming, I felt pain, I fell down and my lower half, my hip was just on fire, and I pulled the gun on Olivia and he shot again, and they missed. Then he dropped the gun and ran away, and Olivia came over to me and helped me, and I tried to tell her, this is Turner, the Turner did this, don't let him die, and have him get away, he did this, and I passed out, and I didn't know anything else until I woke up in the hospital.
Okay, did you ever talk about that?
I wanted to, I told police, I told them, well, there's nothing we can do, because, we don't have evidence, your testimony won't hold. And it wasn't, I never talked to him since then.
Do you have reasons to free her?
Maybe once back, years ago, maybe, but now, no. I haven't talked to him in 5 years. We've had no relationship whatsoever. Ever since he started his business, he's been pretty chill. Before that, he was a news activist. He took anything moved. And so, I think definitely not to this extreme, got taken away my fiance, taking everything away from myself. Definitely not this way.
So is Turner asking to be?
He thinks he does. He's done it before, after this big guy, his wife, he got in a car accident with her and they went on the road where she was killed. He just got out there after getting away. But, it was really hard for him. And I hired him for receiving funds from a college company, because I knew the same funds that, I hired him. And he took it hard. He claimed that I was harassing him, calling people to, to not be able to get another job. I have a lot of play. I can't go around calling everybody trying to make so he can't get a job. And instead, she was one of my best friends. I really miss her from Idaho.
Has any other incident occurred between you and Turner?
Like I said previously, we had some friends, years ago. But I also, I didn't tell he's one that crowbar, and there's no doubt yet on him.
Is there any other possible suspects?
No, there's a couple people from college back to I stuff that I didn't really go on with, I haven't seen any of them, and no, he's the only one.
Okay, thank you for your cooperation. We'll contact you if you have any further questions.
Thank you.
That was the statement given by Ryan Hayes before he died. As you can see, he stated he did not have any hard feelings towards Jonathan Turner, or he had no reason. He had no reason to frame himself, hire a man to shoot him in the leg, hire a man to burn his house down, nearly kill his wife, nearly kill him. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, based off of the story that we have heard so far from the defendant team, they have no evidence in itself that Dexter Hamilton committed this crime, nor are there any witnesses saying that Jonathan Turner was ever at Home Depot, that Chuck was ever at Home Depot. These are real people, and they committed real crimes. But that does not mean that Dexter Hamilton committed this crime. The hair that was found at the scene covered in Ryan Hayes' blood still had a live hair follicle on the end. Now, for that to happen, that has to be ripped out of the scalp fresh. If he had taken it from a comb, the chances of that being a fresh follicle and multiple is very low, as they would have just slid out. However, the hairs that were found on the ground were covered in blood. How would Dexter Hamilton have planned pushing the hairs into the ground where they would be found by the police? How would he know that they would have found any evidence at that scene on purpose? There is none. That is because Dexter Hamilton did not commit this crime. Jonathan Turner did. That evidence wasn't there by chance. That evidence was there because Jonathan Turner was the man at that scene. Jonathan Turner had a reason, or so he believed, to commit that crime. He was angry, he was mad, he was jealous, and he had reason to want to commit that crime. Dexter Hamilton did not. Dexter Hamilton is also very questionable because he's a liar, he's a thief, he's a murderer, and when questioned, Mr. Jonathan Turner's and Mr. Hamilton's answers were different concerning the shoes. Mr. Dexter claimed that they weren't his shoes. And the man who was on trial here today claimed they were his shoes. Now, Hamilton never discussed whether those hair follicles, how he got them specifically. He said he got them from the bathroom. Not even saying that he took them from a comb or a brush or somewhere there would be a live hair follicle. However, going off pure evidence, Mr. Brian Hayes would have been able to pull the hairs from his head with his hat still on, coming off the back of his head, and they would be indeed live hair follicles, and they would have been smashed into the ground, and they would have been buried. They would have been covered in his blood, as Brian Hayes was beaten up and was covered in it. That is why there was Brian Hayes' blood on it. Hamilton could not have planned putting blood, Brian Hayes' blood, beforehand on his hairs. Brian Hayes' blood is there. Mr. Hamilton could not have controlled when or how he would have bled. He could not have controlled where that blood would have ended up, especially on the hairs. The shirt that was found. How would he have been able to knowingly rip that shirt, including the DNA of Mr. Jonathan Turner, without getting any evidence of himself on that shirt? How would he have been able to know that it would have been found by the police? He says he was an expert at planting it, but how would he have known that it ever would have been found? He wouldn't. He didn't commit the crime. Jonathan Turner did, and the evidence is there to say exactly so. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, look at the evidence before you, and you will see that there is no evidence whatsoever tying Dexter Hamilton to this case in any means. That is all I have to say. Thank you.
I have a question for Ms. Shaw. Are you a forensic scientist?
I'm not a forensic scientist, Your Honor. I'm a lawyer.
So where are you getting your information on this hair follicles and all the stuff you're talking about, DNA?
That is from the forensic scientist. Earlier, Ms. Sharp mentioned that it was trigger happy, however, that could not be so, as all of the evidence that has been found was found.
And so you're, according to your forensic science, then it has to be within 3 days, you said, that a live hair follicle would prove
I did not say that, but that is indeed true. 3 to 5 days.
3 to 5 days.
3 to 5 days. And this hair was found at the crime scene within that time limit. However, who knows how old that hair may have been that Dexter supposedly took and planned
himself would not have known that that hair would have a live follicle.
You have no fingerprints.
There is no fingerprints as he was wearing gloves, Mr. Turner.
Thanks. Defendant Attorney Sharp, you may begin your open floor statement. You have 5 minutes. Any time will start now.
As I have said before, for the framing of Mr. Jonathan Turner and the evidence, which is here, you know, Brian Hayes had every incentive to frame this man. His father favored him, and Mr. Brian Hayes was the reason why his wife came to Idaho, and Mr. Brian Hayes, he tried everything in his power to make it to where their marriage would not go through. But he married her anyway. And that in itself could cause a lot of hate toward him because he stole his best friend, as he said. And with the shoes being stolen by Mr. Dexter, and the shoes were found, the piece of shirt which was found in a burn barrel, being in a bag, all put in the barrel, being burned, which if, you know, Mr. Jonathan Turner, he went straight to Mrs. Jones, and she said, in her own words, he didn't act suspicious at all. If he had a bag of stuff in his car, wouldn't he act suspicious to have anyone, you know, pull him over or find that in his truck and immediately link him? The thing is, he didn't have that in the back of his truck. Mr. Dexter Hamilton had already stuck it in the burn barrel. And with the hair follicle, with, you know, his job and everything, he could have very well had something stuck in his hair. And when he was combing it out, he could have yanked it out. And with the hair follicle, then Mr. Dexter could have went to his house, you know, when he was working on that day, and taken it and planted it. The crowbar found at the scene, if it was really Mr. Jonathan Turner who did it, why would he use his crowbar that had his name on it? That had it engraved. The thing is, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, he did it. Mr. Dexter Hamilton had the crowbar, took it from the shop, used it against Mr. Brian Hayes, and then planted it back. The 3 pipe bombs. Yes, Mr. Jonathan is an electrician, but how can he, you know, stick 3 pipe bombs together in such a long time? Mr. Dexter here, his nickname is the Bomb. The Bomb. That tells you straight off he has something to do with bombs. The gas can, it didn't have any match. It sure wasn't Jonathan Turner's. And the blood, there was no blood at the scene with Jonathan Turner's. And there was blood. There was DNA evidence of an unknown match. There is a police report of the DNA that went missing miraculously. And Mr. Dexter Hamilton, he himself said that the DNA, he heard about the DNA from 2014. Missing DNA evidence that had an unknown match. By that time, Mr. Jonathan Turner would have already had his blood checked, and he was negative for gun residue, and the blood at the scene had an unknown match. And whose blood could it have been other than Mr. Dexter Hamilton's? And brings me to the conclusion that the blood miraculously disappeared, and that is some of the evidence that the police disregarded disregarded as it did not have a match. And the shirt found at the scene would have been extremely simple to plant. You know? Just, it was planted. And, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, why would Mr. Jonathan Turner do this? The fact of the matter is,
Attorney Sharp, your time is up.
thank you.
Prosecuting Attorney Shaw, we will now begin closing statements. You have 5 minutes.
First, Your Honor, would you like to question Ms. Olivia White at all, or would you like me to proceed with the closing statement?
Do you want to put her on stand?
If the jury or the judge has any questions, she says she's willing to give her story on the events that occurred.
Jerry, do you want to hear her statement?
Okay.
5 minutes. Or,
Stand. Sure I am in the Bible. Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And will you state your full name?
Olivia Jeanette White.
You may be seated. Prosecuting Attorney Shaw, you may begin the direct examination with the witness. You have 1 minute, and your time will start now. Begin.
Ms. Olivia White, how close would you say your and your fiance's relationship was at the time?
The time of the crime,
At the time of the crime?
we were very close. We were thinking about getting married soon, and getting our house all prepared.
All right. Did he seem closed off to you at all?
No, not at all.
All right. So, would you want to give the jury a little bit of the story that you had with Ryan before the crime was committed? Could you explain a little bit of their relationship, of your relationship?
Well, I didn't really know him as well when I was younger, but when I had after my sister Zaya died in a car crash, and my mother died of cancer a short while later, I didn't really have anywhere to go. Ryan, he helped pay for my college, and he helped me get going again. After that, we just sort of went our separate ways, and in 2010, he came to my veterinary clinic with his dog, and we got talking again, and that's when we got engaged.
Attorney Shaw, your time is up. Defendant Attorney Sharp, you may begin the cross-examination to the prosecutor's witness. You have 1 minute, and your time will start now. Begin.
Miss Olivia White, did you at the time have insurance on your house?
Yes, we did.
Which could also, he had insurance on his house. Would have
That's
been-
just common sense.
which would have been no problem for it to burn and for him to, he had insurance and he could have paid his insurance amount. And did you know that Mr. Brian Hayes in the past was sabotaging Jonathan Turner in order to get him fired?
How can you say that? That is assumption. There was no proof.
It is not assumption. Did you know of Mr. Brian Hayes' past with Jonathan? The whole story.
I knew of the past. I did not know all the details. But my husband, he was a good man, and he did not hire anyone to burn our house down. Even if we had insurance, you can't erase memories. You can't erase good times that you had in a place like that.
Yes, but with enough hate of his father, favoring Mr. Jonathan Moore and Zaya White, his ex-girlfriend, him taking both, which,
Attorney Sharp, your time is up.
do we have any questions from the jury?
Is your husband or your fiance?
I married him in 2015.
Anybody else?
Who was the beneficiary of the insurance?
What?
Who was the beneficiary of the insurance policy?
I do not remember, as we had separate, like I had a veterinary clinic, he had a company, I did not know that.
Did you get a big windfall of money, or did you didn't share that with me? Were you married at the time?
No,
So he kept the money?
he
didn't
kept his
share?
money and I had my money and we would discuss things. We would discuss what we had,
You said your sister passed away. Is your sister Jonathan her wife?
she was my older sister.
Did you think Jonathan was responsible for your sister's death?
I did.
6?
Did Mr. Hayes get any justice?
For the house?
For the accident? The crime?
I believe he did, but we ended up moving out after.
Did he have another place where he had value?
I don't think so.
And, was the house still furnished at the time?
Yes.
Have you heard of the man, the mom?
No, I had not.
Did you hear of anybody coming up and talking to the maid? Well,
You did tell me about it. Yes.
Any other questions?
Did you discuss, with your fiance about his feelings for her?
We did occasionally. There were certain days where he would remember good things, dreams that bring back testimonies.
And it really got him worked up sometimes.
Occasionally, but not that often.
What was, your husband's relationship with the maid?
She lived pretty close by. I met her when she was looking for a job, and we hired her to clean our house every Tuesday.
you know how much she got paid?
She got paid about $15 an hour. Maybe she got.
You have a question? Any other questions? Okay.
Prosecuting Attorney Shaw, you may begin your closing statement. You have 5 minutes, and your time will start now. You may sit down.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the defendant's claims are purely on assumption. Purely, maybe that happened. A lot of that could have happened. This could have happened. They don't actually have any strong evidence of what was at the crime scene. There is nothing tying Dexter Hamilton whatsoever to this crime scene at all. There's no witnesses that he was at the crime scene. In fact, no one had ever even heard of Dexter Hamilton until about a year ago when the appeal by Ms. Sharp was made. No one had ever heard of Dexter Hamilton, and there was certainly nobody, especially Brian Hayes, who ever said that he was associated with a man like Dexter Hamilton. It is assumed that the hair follicles were taken and that something was in Jonathan Turner's hair and it was ripped out. It's assumed that that could have happened. It's assumed that he could have taken the shoes from the house, that maybe they were bought in, maybe they were Jonathan Turner's.
when they were in fact Jonathan Turner's. There is no question about whether they were bought in or not, but according to Dexter Hamilton, they were bought in. According to Jonathan Turner, they were his. Jonathan Turner never met Dexter Hamilton up until he was with him in prison. He never saw any signs that his shoes, which he would wear on his feet every day to work, or how they smell quite often. He never said they were missing. And the question, what did he wear if they were missing, was never answered. The statement of Brian Hayes was given, and from that video, he did not hold any hard feelings that would make him want to pay someone to do that to him, especially from the love that Mr. White, Miss White, and Brian Hayes shared. Why would he potentially kill his own wife? Why would he put that on his own self? Now, Mr. Brian Hayes isn't with us here today, and he can't give his testimony on this case here today. But this is a retrial of the evidence that was discussed before in the first trial, and the only reason why it was brought back up is because of Dexter Hamilton, who, might I add, is a liar, a thief, a murderer. He's committed a lot of crimes. And as one of the jury members earlier stated, how can we trust him? How can you trust him? How can you trust a liar? You can't. And the reason why you can't is because it never happened. Dexter Hamilton never committed that crime. And the evidence states Jonathan Turner did and had a reason behind why he would want to commit those crimes. A case based on assumption should not be a case at all. Hard evidence is needed to prove the innocence and guilt of someone. And from what we have seen and heard here today, there is not a single drop of evidence connecting Dexter Hamilton to this case, or connecting Brian Hayes to Dexter Hamilton, or connecting Jonathan Turner to Dexter Hamilton, or anyone in this courtroom here today. And like I stated before, no one had ever heard of Dexter Hamilton up until a small amount of time ago. The fact of the matter is, when you do wrong, you have to pay for what you did wrong, whether it be in time, in jail, whether you pay for it physically, mentally. The fact of the matter is, you have to pay for your crime. Now, Jonathan Turner here served 7 years of his crime, and he should finish the rest.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
Jonathan Turner does not belong out in the open where he could potentially harm Miss White or her 2 children that she has that could possibly be in danger. Gentlemen and ladies of the jury, please look at the evidence here today that I have presented and pick whether or not a guilty man should be kept in prison. That is all, Your Honor. Thank you.
Defendant Attorney Sharp, you may begin your closing statements. You have 5 minutes, and your time will start now.
So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we have a lot of evidence which could go both ways. And with this evidence, the shirt at the scene planted by Dexter Hamilton, the sample was taken, this sample was from Mr. Jonathan Turner, which he willingly gave. Why would Jonathan Turner willingly give a sample of his hair if he was at the scene? A chance of being found out. And the unknown DNA evidence. The DNA evidence which they have a police report that went missing miraculously, and which Dexter Hamilton himself did say he heard about it, and it miraculously went away. lot of incentive of hate and jealousy toward one another. I fully believe that Brian Hayes hired Dexter Hamilton to arraign Jonathan Turner. Because with the hate, jealousy, stealing of the girlfriend, all that, the question remains, why would Jonathan Turner go burn someone else's house? When he had a nice job, he was an electrician, he helped other men that were in his place once before. Jonathan Turner would know how they felt. And he was up on his feet and had everything going for him. Why would he lower himself and go burn down Brian Hayes' house and do such a terrible thing? The thing is, he didn't. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I brought this case back up because with the disregarded evidence and the testimonies, I fully believe that this man is innocent. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please decide carefully whether you want to let this innocent man go back in jail for time that he didn't, for a crime that he didn't commit, or make this man go back in jail for something he didn't do. Thank you.
Floor will now be turned over to the jury.
So, you jurors, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Ms. Shaw, it's her job to prove that this, without a shadow of a doubt, that he was guilty. And it's Ms. Sharp's, to her, to make sure that there's reasonable doubt. And I'm going to expect 100% guilty for this, or 100% innocent. That's what I need out of you. So you guys have 5 minutes to deliberate, make a decision.
Ask one more question before everybody's gone. So, somebody mentioned the insurance policy. I'm wondering if Brian had a life insurance policy and if he would have been a benefactor if he died.
No, she did not.
Brian had no life insurance policy. They were had no connection. So if she had died, obviously he was offended that the Turner had his ex-girlfriend. Obviously he was wondering if something was entirely, and obviously he was hurt. If this girl had died, would have he made enough money to pay off somebody to commit?
No, he would not have. She runs a veterinary service that had been started not too long ago. She wasn't exactly making extreme high bills, especially to be able to pay
Another
them.
question. Did she have a life insurance policy that he would have been the benefactor of?
No, he did not. They were not married at the time.
Or you don't know.
No, they did not.
Life insurance policy, they don't have to be married, they just have to be the benefactor.
Who's the benefactor?
Who is the benefactor of Miss White?
Did Brian pull a life insurance policy on her prior to this occurrence?
No,
Or
he
do you
did not.
not know?
He did not.
That's all.
Okay, so jurors, you guys get together and make a decision. Tell me what it is. Stand right here in the corner at the top. Wait.
So here's the crowbar. Here's the shoes. This piece of shirt was found in the burger. As you can see, it is burnt. You guys just want to pass that around. Now this piece of evidence is a shirt section found ripped, which was left at the crime scene, which matches the exact same shirt, both containing DNA evidence of Brian Hayes' blood.
Okay, Jerry is spoken. Where's Jonathan Turner?
Prosecuting defending team from the stage.
Jonathan Turner, rise. So the jury has spoken, and in reasonable doubt, there's 100% innocent. Jonathan Turner, you're a free man. Good job.
We have one more thing we'd like to add today to this night. To a very special person who made this all possible. Jennifer Jessup, will you please rise and come?
We just wanted to thank our teacher who put this whole thing together. She created the story, she created the evidence, and she created the lawyers and the witnesses to be able to stand up here today and do what you've seen, because obviously none of us are lawyers or witnesses or any of that sort of thing. So we just wanted to do a big thank you to Jennifer because she's the one who made all of this possible. So
Yes, I will briefly. Jonathan Turner is innocent in the real story. He's originally innocent, and he did have an alibi, and he was starting the vehicle of someone. Olivia, who was also slightly accused by the jury, is what the most innocent of all innocent. Dexter Hamilton was hired by Brian Hayes. So we were going to do a plot twist and say that Jonathan actually hired Chuck in prison and had Brian killed, but we decided we can't sit here for another jury. So, yes, Jonathan Turner is innocent, so our court worked.